Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you want the lowdown on the ionz KZ22 mid-range gaming PC, right? Smart and fast.
Yeah, no wading through endless spec sheets.
Exactly. Consider this your shortcut. We're diving into this gaming rig.
And the mission is pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at this pre-built system. It's got an Intel Core i5-12400F, NVIDIA's RTX 4060, 0.16 gigs of DDR4 RGB memory, and a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. All for around, what, 750 pounds?
About that, yeah. 749 pound 95.
So the big question is, does it actually deliver that solid 1080p gaming experience people are looking for without, breaking the bank?
Okay, let's unpack it. First impressions, the design. The review called it a stealth fighter aesthetic. Sounds kind of cool.
It does. Matte black case, so it's not too flashy.
But then you've got that tempered glass side panel, right? So you can see the RGB RAM doing its thing.
Yeah, a bit of visual flair. The review mentions it feels, not cheap. It seems durable.
Good. And more than just looks, right? There's functional stuff, too.
Oh, yeah. That mesh front panel.
Yeah.
Super important for airflow. Keeps things cool.
Right. Performance and longevity.
And they mentioned the dust filters. Apparently, they're pretty sturdy. Not floozy plastic, which is a nice touch for maintenance. Easy to clean.
Definitely hate dealing with dusty PCs. And inside, cable management.
Yeah, the review highlights good cable management, which, helps with airflow and makes upgrades way less of a headache later.
True. Plus, they said it feels solid, no rattles.
Exactly. Solid and rattle-free, which isn't always a given with pre-builts in this price range, let's be honest.
So, seems like decent attention to detail on the build itself.
It suggests a thoughtful approach, I think. Like the air cooler, just a standard 120mm one.
Nothing massive or over the top.
Right. It blends in, does the job for this CPU. It's just they picked parts that work well together rather than just the cheapest option.
Okay, let's get into the engine room, the core components. First up, that processor. Intel Core i5-12400F.
Yep, 6 performance cores, clocks from 2.5 gigahertz up to 4.4 gigahertz boost.
So what does that mean in practice? For gaming, for other stuff?
Well, the thing is, the 12400F hits a really smart balance, especially for this kind of build.
How so?
For gaming, particularly at 1080p, you really want strong single-core speed. This chip has that. It doesn't have extra cores you won't use in most games, which keeps the cost down.
Makes sense.
But it's still got enough multi-core grunt for, say, light video editing, Photoshop, or just juggling Discord and browser tabs while you game. It's a capable all-rounder.
Gotcha. Okay, graphics, often the star of the show. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060.
Right. Latest Ada Lovelace architecture from NVIDIA comes with 8 gigs of GDDR6 memory.
And the buzzwords. Ray tracing. DLSS 3.0. Break those down for us.
Okay, so Ada Lovelace is just the newest tech, means better performance overall. 8 gigs of video memory is plenty for 1080p gaming. Ray tracing. Think super realistic lighting and reflections, like how light behaves in the real world, looks amazing.
What's demanding, right?
Very demanding, and that's where DLSS 3.0 comes in.
Yeah.
It's basically AI magic. The graphics card intelligently creates extra frames on the fly.
Like filling in the gaps.
Exactly. It boosts your frame rate significantly, often without a noticeable hit to image quality. Especially useful with ray tracing turned on.
Clever stuff. Okay, memory. 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RGB. The review called it the sweet spot. Why 16?
Yeah, sweet spot is about balancing performance and cost. 16 gigs is generally enough for smooth gaming, even with background apps running.
Like Discord or Spotify.
Right. Or even some light streaming. You can go to 32 gigs, but for a 1080p focused build at this price, the extra cost is probably better spent elsewhere. 16 gigs, especially in a 2x8 GB setup at 3200 megahertz, is really sensible.
Makes sense. Storage next, 1 TB NVMe SSD. PCIe 3.0 speeds, around 3500 millibars read.
Yep, NVMe stands for Non-Volatile Memory Express. Fancy name for fast.
So for someone just wanting games to load quick, what's the real difference?
Huge difference. Dramatically faster load times in games compared to older SSDs or especially hard drives. Windows boots in seconds. The whole system just feels incredibly snappy.
Nice. Now back to that 120mm air cooler. It keeps the i5 cool enough while gaming, the review said.
Yeah, for the 12400F, in a case with decent airflow like this one seems to have, a 120mm cooler is generally fine.
What temps did they see?
Review mentioned around 65 to 70 degrees Celsius for the CPU underload. GPU was near 75.
And that's okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well within safe operating limits. No worries about throttling or overheating during normal gaming.
Good to know. Powering it all is a 500-watt 80-plus bronze PSU. Review said it's fine for now, but maybe limited for big upgrades later.
Pretty much. A 500-watt bronze unit is perfectly adequate for the i5-12400F and the RTX 4060. They aren't super power-hungry parts.
But if you wanted to slap in like a future RTX 5080 or something.
Yeah, exactly. A much higher-end graphics card down the line would almost certainly need a beefier power supply.
Yeah.
But for this config, it's fine.
Connectivity sounds standard. Built-in Wi-Fi, AC, Ethernet, USB ports.
Yep, USB 3.2 and 2.0, DisplayPort, HDMI, all the essentials are covered.
And Windows 11 Home pre-installed. Saves hassle.
Definitely. And it's a clean install, according to the review, which is a big plus. No bloatware.
Always good. Okay, the moment of truth. Gaming performance. How does it actually run games?
Review is pretty glowing here. Excellent out-of-the-box 1080p performance.
Numbers. Did they give frame rate examples?
Yeah, they said averages north of 100 fps in modern AAA titles on ultra settings without ray tracing. They referenced TechSpot benchmarks, finding around 108 fps in popular games.
Wow, okay, so really smooth at 1080p high ultra.
Absolutely. Really fluid experience on a standard full HD monitor.
And what about esports titles? Fortnite, CS:GO?
Crushes them, apparently. Easily pushing way past 200 Ps. So if you've got a high refresh rate monitor, this thing can definitely drive it.
Nice. Competitive edge right there.
For sure. Lower latency, smoother visuals.
Now, what if you do want the pretty ray tracing lights? Cyberpunk 2077 was the example.
Right. With ray tracing on, performance obviously drops. But enabling DLSS set to the quality mode brought frame rates up to a comfortable 60-70 fps in Cyberpunk.
So still very playable, even with the fancy effects, thanks to DLSS.
Exactly. It's a good compromise. You get the enhanced visuals without the gameplay turning into a slideshow.
An interesting point, the review mentioned it might even handle some 1440p.
Yeah, occasional 1440p play at tuned-down settings. So while 1080p is its strong suit, it's not strictly limited, gives you options if you upgrade your monitor later.
Good bit of flexibility. Now, outside of gaming, productivity stuff, photo editing, maybe some light video, how does that i5 cope?
It's pretty capable. Those 6 cores handle things like Photoshop well, light video rendering in Premiere Pro. It'll do it, maybe not lightning fast like a high-end workstation, but respectably. Multitasking feels smooth.
So not a pro content creation machine, but fine for everyday tasks and hobbies.
Exactly. Responsive for general use, and there's an upgrade path if needed.
And that NVMe SSD must help with loading big projects too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Loading large photos, video timelines. That SSD speed makes a huge difference in responsiveness for those kinds of tasks. Big time saver.
Okay, let's circle back to temps and noise. We know the temps are good. 6570 CPU, 75 GPU under load. That's good for component health long term.
Definitely. Keeping things cool like that helps ensure stability and longevity. It shows the KZ airflow and the coolers are doing their job properly.
And crucially, it does this without sounding like a jet engine.
Apparently not. The review described noise levels as modest, CPU fan on it, a gentle hum under load, and the RTX 4060's dual fan cooler as unobtrusive.
That's huge. Nothing worse than a noisy PC when you're trying to focus or get immersed in a game.
Agreed. Quiet operation alongside good thermals is a really nice combination to see.
Thinking ahead, upgrades. People always want to know if they can upgrade later. How's the KZ22 on that front?
Seems pretty good, actually. The review highlighted clear upgradability as a strength.
What specifically?
Well, there are free RAM slots, so you could double the memory to 32 gigs easily. Extra M.2 slots for more NVMe SSD storage.
Okay.
And standard SATA ports, too, if you wanted to add cheaper bulk storage like a big hard drive or a SATA SSD.
Right. And we already mentioned the PSU might need an upgrade for a really high-end GPU later.
Correct. That's probably the main limitation down the road for a major graphics pump.
But getting inside and actually doing the upgrades, is it easy to work in?
Sounds like it. The good cable management helps, and the review implied the chassis interior is reasonably roomy. They even hinted you could theoretically fit custom water cooling, though that's probably overkill for most buyers here.
Still, good to know it's not some cramped proprietary nightmare to work inside.
Big advantage. Non-proprietary parts. User-friendly design. Makes upgrades and servicing much easier.
Software next. Big plus. Clean Windows 11 install.
Yes. Minimal bloatware is always welcome. Just
Yeah.
the OS, maybe a driver utility, basic monitoring tool. Nothing intrusive bogging things down.
Compared to some big brands that load tons of trial software.
Exactly. A much cleaner starting point.
And support. What's the deal there?
Standard 1-year warranty on parts and labor. Options to extend, apparently. And the review noted ionz has UK-based support.
And responsive.
Yeah, claimed response within 24 hours. Plus, online guides and FAQs. Having accessible local support is definitely a plus for peace of mind.
All right, let's bring it all together. The value question. Around 750 pounds. Is it good bang for your buck.
The review certainly positions it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Hits that mid-range sweet spot really well.
How does it stack up against bigger names?
Often favorably on price.
Uh-huh.
Similar specs from major OEMs might cost £850 and £900, sometimes more. You often pay a premium for the badge.
So the value proposition is
Non-proprietary parts, easy to service, clean software, solid performance for the price, decent build, good support. It seems to punch above its weight. You're getting a lot for that £750.
Okay, so summing up, the ionz KZ22 looks like a really strong contender if you're aiming for great 1080p gaming, maybe dabbling in some content creation, and you don't want to spend a fortune.
That's the core message, I think. It's a well-balanced package. The i5-12400F and RTX 4060 deliver the gaming chops. The design is thoughtful, good airflow, quiet operation, and the price is very competitive.
It really does seem to hit that mid-range gaming sweet spot effectively.
Yeah. Seems like a solid choice.
So, for you listening, maybe thinking about a new PC, consider this. With this kind of performance and price balance, how might a system like the KZ22 change how you game or what projects you tackle? And knowing it's pretty easy to upgrade down the line, what future possibilities does that open up for you? Something to think about.